What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your boy Numbskull, and today I figured we would go on another expedition through Erowid's experience vaults together. I'll be reading these experiences exactly as they're written, as always. This time, however, I'm going to be reading a couple reports on your standard Δ⁹-THC, good old reliable. I handpicked these this time myself, and I haven't read them yet, only glazed over them, but I know what substances were used. I've got a standard smoked flower one written in a very personable way, and one that caught my eye in particular and sounds quite interesting, at least to me. Vaporized THC and nitrous oxide. So with that, I think that's where we're going to begin. Let's get into it. Encounter with a fiery celestial being by cosmonauts. Nitrous oxide and cannabis. Time of experience 2009. Gender female. Age at time of experience, 19. Dose, 10 hits, vaporized. Via 1 cart, inhaled, and nitrous oxide, inhaled. Body weight, 160 pounds. I have been enjoying nitrous oxide for a number of months now, but mostly in the company of many friends or at parties. I had not learned to crack the nitrous cartridges, and figuring it was about time, I went to my local smoke shop, guys, and purchased a cracker, a balloon, and a box of 50 cartridges. My first few attempts were failures, but finally by the 4th cartridge I successfully filled the balloon with the precious gas. I waited for the balloon to thaw out, twisted the top, and unscrewed it from the cracker. As I inhaled and held the gas in my lungs, I began to feel a tingly sensation moving throughout my body. My vision also began to blur slightly, the object sitting on my desk began to shift. I exhaled after about 10 seconds, give or take, breathed a few more breaths of air, then inhaled the other half of the balloon. I closed my eyes and began to focus on the images that were quickly flashing through my mind. At this point, the music blaring through my headphones became very apparent. I felt as if my entire body was functioning to the beat of the psy-trance I was enjoying. The abstract symbols and designs within my mind flowed to the rhythm of the synthesizer and changed with every few beats. I began to settle into my trip, feeling quite comfortable with the closed-eye visuals I was experiencing, and then, all at once, they began to fade and I started to come back to reality. I opened my eyes and, enjoying the tingling sensation for what seemed like a few more minutes, then that too finally faded. I made the decision that I would enjoy some more nitrous later on in the evening when my roommate returned from class. It was around 8 p.m. and I was sitting patiently in my roommate's room waiting for her vaporizer to heat up so we could enjoy some herb. After about 10 minutes of enjoying the herb, and feeling rather high, we decided it was time to enjoy a whippet. In quotations. I cracked the first one and handed her the balloon, knowing that having someone observe you while you trip with nitrous can sometimes hinder the experience, so I leaned back on her bed, closed my eyes, and enjoyed the music and the general altered thought processes I was experiencing due to the pot. After a couple of minutes, my roommate finally exclaimed, "That was so fucking awesome." "I know, right?" I replied as she handed me the balloon. I cracked the next cartridge, took a deep breath, exhaled, and then began to inhale the contents of the balloon. I stopped at the halfway point and closed my eyes as I held my breath. I've always enjoyed the effects of nitrous more under the influence of marijuana or alcohol. It seems like the already altered state of consciousness really makes the nitrous experience much more intense. This time was a perfect example to back that claim. Once again, the tingly feeling rushed throughout my body, and within seconds, the abstract designs entered my mind again. Along with these images, my thoughts began to wander. The music played a major role in how quickly my thoughts would wander. I love floating within the universe of the self, I remembered thinking to myself. The images continued flashing, moving again to the music. And after what seemed like 5 or so minutes, although I am sure it was no more than one, I opened my eyes and realized I still had half of the balloon's contents to inhale. I inhaled the rest, closed my eyes, and began to experience one of the most intense trips of my life. I suddenly felt as if I were falling backwards in slow motion. I pictured myself falling through space over and over again, as if a video had been looping to repeating in my mind. That's a little messed up part. This is why I really need to read over these whole things before I make a video on them. But anyways, visuals began to flash in my mind at what seemed like the speed of light. I felt terror creeping up my spine as I watched what looked like a ghost or celestial being on fire, moving rapidly in the pattern of an infinity symbol. I was deeply terrified of this being and the pattern it was moving in. I felt a deep sense of understanding as I watched the being, as if it were sharing its omniscient knowledge with me. Then suddenly, it seemed as if everything came to a sudden halt. I was sure I heard a voice in my head scream, "Watch out!" as an image of a triangular road sign flashed through my mind rapidly. I opened my eyes and gasped for air, realizing I had not exhaled the gas yet, and wondering how long it had been since I had last inhaled oxygen. It was also at this point that the falling feeling reoccurred. I also felt that I was able to predict every event that was happening in the room, the sound of the music, my roommate's expressions, my thoughts, everything. Astonished, I realized that my perception of reality must have completely changed while I was floating through space. I could feel my body twitching and moving as if I were a machine. Tried to vocalize my thoughts to my roommate, but I couldn't form my thoughts into words. I robotically leaned back in the bed in a series of twitching motions. Finally, after a few minutes, I began to return to reality. I was relieved that I could move my limbs fluidly again. I slewed a few profanities together to try to explain the trip to my roommate, but was still too astonished to vocalize clearly. While the experience was overly intense and quite terrifying, it was truly amazing. As an experienced psychedelic user, I have to admit that nitrous oxide is one of the most intense substances that I've ever tried. Each trip is incredibly different, and while this experience was obviously dangerous and has taught me that I need to try to be more aware of my body, it was truly educational. I know I will probably never encounter that fiery celestial being again, or feel its knowledge flowing through my body like I did on this particular evening. And that concludes the first experience, ladies and gentlemen. Quite interesting indeed. I figured this one would hit, and in my opinion, it definitely did. Enough of my rambling though, let's get into the next one. Turtle in My Mouth. Cannabis. By Octavian. Time of experience, 2001. Gender, male. Age at time of experience, not given. Dose, 1 cig smoked cannabis. Body weight, 180 pounds. We were somewhere around New York, on the edge of the urban desert when the drugs began to take hold. I can remember saying, "I feel a bit lightheaded. Maybe you should drive." Nah, actually, that didn't happen to me. That paragraph is paraphrased from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, one of the greatest fictitious works in the field of illegitimate pharmaceuticals. It's written by Hunter S. Thompson, but I won't bore anyone with a long screed on why you should read his books. My first experience with marijuana would have been sometime around 13 years of age. I was a strapping young lad. I live in Canada, in a predominantly white, Jewish, upper-class, upper middle... Why does it say it like that? See, this is what I'm talking about. Which means that in this day and age, every teenager who's not drinking is smoking pot or gobbling shrooms. Psilocyclob SP question mark. This would have been when my kids were my age. I'm getting second thoughts if we should read this one. I'm just going to keep going though. For the sake of protecting the innocent, I will be using the pseudonym Joseph, and conversely, my friend will be Ash. Enjoy. I had arrived at Ash's house for a sleepover. Ash was and remains my best friend since kindergarten, so we've gone through quite a lot together. We've seen nations rise and fall. I'm not joking, we've been friends since kindergarten, which means we were both sucking on juice boxes when the Berlin Wall fell. I think. Anyway, Ash had been talking to me about smoking weed before. He had tried it one day at his junior high during his lunch period and tripped out of his mind. He spent a half an hour sitting in a Chinese restaurant across the street from his school, laughing at a bowl of plain white rice. I figured, after hearing this story, what a fun experience. Damn the reefer madness stories, I was going to get blitzed. After playing some computer games a bit and waiting for Ash's parents to go to bed, we quietly left his house at around 10. We walked across the street, literally to one of Ash's friend's house, which was parallel to Ash's. His name is alias Wog, and he knew him just about as long as he did me. I had never met Wog until that night, but he was a real fine fella. He had a dime and he was willing to share it with us. We were in luck. We sat around and talked very jovially for a few minutes while he rolled a joint. I was fascinated by both his consummate skill in rolling and the vicarious pleasure of seeing someone doing something illegal. He finished rolling, and we slipped out of his house, keen on not waking his parents. In the safety, darkness, and obscurity of the nighttime street, we blazed up the spliff. My two friends, one old, one new, walked on either side of me. Giants, I thought. We were all 13 or just past it, but I was only about 5'2", while they were something like 5'4" to 5'7". We passed the spliff, with Wog the roller going, of course, first, and then me, and then my friend Ash. Over the course of our pleasant walk, we chatted and smoked. I had no idea what to expect when I first put the joint to my lips. For all I know, I could have hallucinations of giant manatees wearing jackboots and SS uniforms as soon as I inhaled, which means I was a little disappointed when nothing happened after sucking in my first few puffs. The taste was slightly unpleasant, like chewing on a half-fried piece of rope, but not unbearable in any sense. I wasn't too let down, though. I had been warned that most people don't get high the first time. My new acquaintance, however, did not want me to go away empty-handed, and despite his best efforts, I could not get high. He blew me supers, which I am told are called shotguns in America, and most of the rest of the world. They were disgusting because of the close quarters needed, and horribly harsh. Still nothing. The chill of the night was starting to take hold. It was during autumn and winter was coming quite soon. We should head back, man. It's getting cold out here. Besides, I got some fucking roach, meaning bad, cottonmouth, as Ash complained. So we left, but our spirits were unabated. After warming up in his house for a while, we went outside to the side of his house and put the roach in his bong, and we started hitting that. By this time, the two were nicely baked, but I was still 100% sober. I found the bong to be a lot more fun than the joint, though. We stood outside in front of his garage, talking for about 2 hours, just shooting the shit. It was mad fun, even though I wasn't blitzed, just to talk among friends, as I don't have that many. In the end, the only effect I got was extreme munchies. I devoured a family-sized bag of onion rings we had grabbed earlier from a convenience store, but that was it. Don't worry, man, you'll get high next time. There aren't many people that get high their first time, Ash said to me, sympathetically. But why didn't I get high? I fucking smoked so much, I shrieked at him. Dude, like I said to you earlier when we were outside smoking that J, this shit is called THC. It's the shit that makes you high. You gotta remember, man, this THC shit goes into your bloodstream and gets stored in your fat cells. I remembered. I had done a lot of internet research on marijuana before I had even considered trying it. And so, your body didn't know what you were putting in it today, so it rejected it. But don't worry, it's a fight your body will lose. THC will go into your system, and it will stay there, so the next time you smoke, it won't be a foreign substance in your body, and you'll be blitzed, Ash finished. I was relieved. About 2 weeks later, we decided to have another sleepover, so I went to his house one Saturday night. We left his house at around 11 o'clock in search of herbs. We walked for a few minutes to the local plaza, which had a grocery store, convenience store, and video store. We happened upon some of his friends from school, which I didn't know at the time. They were nice, but even better, they had weed. They were standing in front of the anteroom, in front of the sliding automatic doors of the grocery store. They were waiting to be picked up. Ash waved to them and we strolled over. Hey, he said, what are you guys doing out here? One of them, whose nickname I will only reveal, named Fatty, replied, We're waiting for my dad to pick us up. We're standing out here in the middle of nowhere. We picked up a video. It's fucking cold out here. I nudged Ash with my elbow. Yo, this is my friend Joseph. Remember, he's the one I've been telling you about. Yeah, man, Fatty chortled assuringly. Okay, bro, I'm like 50% sure that this story is bullshit, but I'm just gonna keep reading because we're already like halfway through this shit. Sup, I smiled and glanced at his party and returned the gesture. Hey, sup, I said, trying to be as unfreesh-like as I could. I'm not used to today's parlance, but I mostly hang out with social pariahs, usually not my choice. Hey guy, you got any herbs? Ash inquired hopefully. A big grin split the bottom half of Fatty's face. Yeah, guy, I got some right here. It's not much though, only a gram. Fatty said, that's fine, bro. Ash said, it'll get us high. Joseph here has never gotten high, so we're gonna get him blitzed. Fatty grinned and one of his lanky friends laughed. You're gonna have fun, man, the guy said to me. I grinned. Geez, man, I hope so, I said enthusiastically. We paid for the $15 gram of chronic bud quite pathetically. We had to string together what little money we had that we were going to watch a video with. Ash pulled his $5 bill and I had some $1 and $2 coins, which I pulled in together with some quarters to make up the $15. We got some strange looks, but Fatty handed over the gram, and Ash quickly deposited it into his shoe for safekeeping. We said our goodbyes and walked back to Ash's house. When we started down Ash's street, it occurred to us, well, to Ash, that we had no way of smoking the weed. Hey, Ash asked, we don't have any way of smoking this. What are we gonna do? I thought, I don't know, man. Why don't you get Wog to roll it for you? Yeah, all right. We continued on down the street until we reached Ash's house and stepped inside long enough to call Wog. At this time of night, we thought it would be unwise to ring his doorbell. We were in luck. He was in tonight, and he was willing to roll for us. We walked out of Ash's house and across the street we went, where Wog was waiting for us at the door. He ushered us in and wasted no time rolling, as he went into the bathroom and emerged a couple minutes later with an expertly rolled joint. The thing about this experience was that it was to be a private bonding ritual almost, between two best friends. Wog seemed to understand this and declined our polite offer to ask him to join us. Maybe Ash had informed him beforehand. Regardless, it was going to be just Ash and I. We thanked him and walked out. On the street, we decided that the best place to smoke was somewhere quiet and discreet. The area of choice was the parking lot behind the local community center. We made our way there. It was dark, mildly chilly, and the parking lot was deserted, except for a few parked yellow school buses. We sat down on a giant rock and lit up our J. I don't remember if I had the first hit or not. It really doesn't matter now. I think Ash did. But anyway, I started smoking it, trying to calm myself from the jitters I was having. I take antidepressants, and I was afraid it would conflict with my medication. Luckily, it didn't, but I didn't know that at the time. I felt nothing much at first, other than the same wretched taste of gnawing on rope. And then, it happened. I felt energetic, like someone was feeding me raw power. Food of the gods, I thought. Pure ambrosia, to paraphrase the Cyclops from Homer's Odyssey. I looked at Ash, and Ash looked at me, and we both burst into uncontrollable laughter. I stood up and started screaming incoherently. I was later told by Ash that a bystander passed us by and gave us a queer look. But at the time, when Ash told me to calm down, I looked at him and said, "Dude, there's a fucking turtle in my mouth." And I believed it. By this time, the body buzz was taking over. My senses were alight with ecstasy, as I felt a warm pleasantness spread all over my body. The only feeling I could equate it to was being made of pure static, like the kind you see on TV when the cable goes out. I also believed, at this time, that my mouth had separated into another dimension. I literally felt as though my mouth had actually detached from my body somehow, and had slipped into another dimension, yet I could still feel my mouth in that dimension. Somehow, I felt as though there was a turtle in my mouth when it entered the next dimension. Ash started laughing. A turtle in your mouth? That's fucking funny, dude. We stood there, laughing for a few minutes at the turtle joke. It was also by this time that I could no longer form functioning sentences. I would say something, and about a second after leaving my mouth, forget it. So my thought patterns were erratic and reflected in my speech. I was pretty much reduced to babbling in single-word sentences. I sat back down on the rock. Ash seemed to be greatly amused by the way I was acting. I rocked back and forth. "Dude, I'm fucking rocking," I screamed with delight as I involuntarily bobbled back and forth. He laughed. "Yeah, I know, it's fucking great. Your jokes, man." I was content to rock back and forth for what I can only guess was about 20 minutes, while Ash was contained nicely in his own little quiet world. I decided to break the silence. Yo, Ash. Yeah. Doesn't this rock look like a fucking pizza pie? He looked down at it. No, man, it's just a rock. It doesn't look like a pizza, he stated. It seemed hard to believe. I could see the rock clearly, but I saw it morph from a rock to a giant pizza. The rock, which was the one we were sitting on, was triangular, which probably brought on my thinking of it as a pizza. I hallucinated toppings on it, cheese and pepperoni. I smacked the rock with my hands to make sure. It was hard. It definitely didn't feel like a pizza. Oh well, I thought. No point worrying about pizza. It could also have been, as I see in retrospect, hunger from the munchies. No matter though, I was having great fun at this point. Like the flashes of toppings, my vision shifted from real life to flashes of pencil and crayon drawings. I remember these pictures from my childhood. They were drawn mostly when I was a young child. I don't know if these were actual drawings from my childhood or hallucinations that seem very similar, but they were most definitely familiar to me. Let me clarify about hallucinations, though. They were not the stereotypical hallucinations like in TV or movies of weird objects superimposed onto a picture of reality. When I experienced these flashes, or visions as they are probably better known, I could not see the world around me. It was a profound experience, and it was definitely a good thing. Also interesting to note, I heard voices all the while during the duration of the trip, but I was only able to make out what the voices were saying at one point. They said, "Do you verkracht your mouth?" I have no idea what that imagery word might mean, but that's what it sounded like, and I was later assured by Ash that he didn't hear it too, which means it was entirely within my own head. By the time these colorful visions had subsided and my trip began to wind down, it was 3 a.m. I had been tripping for something like 4 hours. Must have been good shit, I reckon. My friend Ash got really paranoid since his buzz had come down a while ago. "Come on, man, we gotta go," he said, with more than a subtle hint of urgency. "Why?" I managed to sputter in response. "Dude, there are people coming. I think we're gonna get fucking mugged." And at this point, this was the first time I actually felt scared during the experience. It wasn't mind-numbing, stomach-churning fear, more like a nervous voice in the back of my head. "Alright, let's make a break for it," I chirped. We bolted as fast as we could for his house, and although at no point did I see the assailants that Ash was mentioning, I was glad to be back in the comfort of Ash's house. We entered as silently as we could, which was difficult, because I was barely able to control my babbling. But we managed to get down to his basement, where we usually sleep during sleepovers. "You feel like playing a computer game?" he asked. "No," I said wearily. After all that intense tripping, I realized I was exhausted. I just wanted to crash. "Well, your eyes are really red. Let me get you some Visine. I'll be right back," he said, running upstairs. I walked into the bathroom, in his basement, flipped the light switch, and looked at myself in the mirror. Wow, I thought, as I saw my blood-red eyes. For some reason, I thought I looked like Indiana Jones. But before I could ponder more, Ash was back with the eye drops. "Here," he said, unscrewing the cap of the bottle. "Hold still while I put this in your eyes." It took him about 5 tries for each eye and quite a bit of telling me to "stand still, you stoned fuck," before he got the liquid into my eyes. I walked over to the den we were going to crash in. He took out a few blankets for me to sleep on with a pillow on the floor. I felt horribly sick. "Dude," I started. "I'm gonna fucking puke." "Oh shit, man. Go to the bathroom," he said. He helped me to my feet, and I went to the bathroom and proceeded to puke the contents of my stomach out into the toilet and the floor surrounding it. "Fuck," he said, utterly disgusted by the stench in sight. "You barfed all over my floor. I gotta clean it up, man. Your barf smells like weed." I couldn't answer. I felt too sick. I collapsed in a pile onto my makeshift bed and fell asleep after about a minute of feeling like I was gonna puke again. The next day, I felt horrible. But showing he was a true friend, Ash cleaned up my puke. How many best friends will clean up puke? It was, perhaps, the single greatest experience of my life so far. I do recommend trying marijuana at least once to anyone. Everyone have a nice day. And that is the end of the second report, guys. See what I mean about the writing in that one? It felt more human, if you know what I mean. Kinda cool. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, maybe hit that subscribe button, and drop a comment letting me know if there's something in particular that you'd like to see next. I will definitely do all of them at some point. And if you don't want to miss any new content, don't forget to turn on those post notifications. I hope you all enjoyed. Stay curious, stay safe, and I will see you all in the next one.
Peace!